The fisherman rose before dawn, when the stars still shimmered faintly over the dark horizon, and pushed his small wooden boat into the restless sea. The air was sharp with salt. The waves lapped hungrily at the hull, and gulls circled overhead with their mournful cries. He carried with him his net, patched many times over, his oars worn smooth by years of calloused hands. His life was hard, and his fortune small, yet each morning he rode into the wide and endless water with the same hope, that today the sea would be generous. The fisherman's family waited in the cottage beyond the dunes, their bellies often empty, their eyes always turning to the shoreline. Each fish he caught was a meal, a coin, or both, and so he worked, patient and stubborn, never knowing what the tide would bring. That morning, after hours of rowing and casting, his net came up almost empty. Seaweed clung to its edges, shells rattled in its knots, but among the debris something shimmered and thrashed. A single small fish, silver as a coin, its scales flashing in the pale light. It flopped helplessly in the net, and the fisherman, sighing at his poor catch, reached to free it. Yet as his rough hands closed around the slippery body, he heard something that made him freeze. A voice, tiny and clear, came from the fish itself. "Good sir," the little fish gasped, its gills fluttering. "Spare me. Throw me back into the water, and you will not regret it. I am far too small to satisfy your hunger or fetch a fair price at market. If you let me grow, I promise one day I will return to your net, and then I will be large enough to bring you true wealth." The fisherman's eyes widened, for never in all his years had he heard a fish speak. He stared at the creature, its dark eyes bright with pleading. His heart wavered. The fish was right. So tiny a catch would barely fill his pot, and it would fetch little at market. What was one meal compared to the promise of a prize greater in the future? Yet suspicion tugged at him too. He was a man seasoned by hardship, and he knew well the tricks of the world. Promises, he thought, are like the waves, always moving, never still, never certain. He turned the fish over in his hands, feeling its fragile body tremble. "You ask me to let you go," he said slowly, his voice low and thoughtful. "You ask me to believe that one day you will return, large enough to be worth the wait. But tell me, little one, what guarantee do I have that you will not simply vanish into the depths, never to be seen again?" The fish wriggled, desperate. "I give you my word," it cried. "The sea is wide, but I will remember. I will keep my promise." The fisherman's lips twisted into a grim smile. "A fish's word," he muttered. "What does that weigh? What is certain is what I hold in my hands here and now. My family waits with empty stomachs, and this small fish, though meager, will give them something. A bird in the hand is worth more than 2 flying free, and a fish in the net is worth more than 1,000 promises in the sea." The little fish thrashed wildly, begging him still, but the fisherman's mind was firm. He drew his knife, ended the creature's struggle, and tossed it into the bottom of his boat. Its silver scales no longer shimmered, and the waves closed over the place where it might have swum free. As he rowed back to shore, his net empty but for that single catch, he thought again of the fish's words. Was it foolish to have killed it, to have chosen the small certainty over the great possibility? Perhaps. But as the gulls wheeled above and his stomach growled, he felt the weight of reality heavier than the weight of dreams. By nightfall, his family ate, and though the meal was small, it was real, and it filled their bellies for a time. The tale of the fisherman and the little fish spread among the people of the coast. Some who heard it praised the man for his wisdom, for not letting go of what he already possessed in the hope of something uncertain. Others shook their heads and called him short-sighted, for perhaps the fish truly would have returned, grown large enough to change his fortunes forever. But all agreed the story carried a lesson, that one must weigh carefully between the promise of tomorrow and the certainty of today, and that greed for greater things often blinds us to the value already in our hands. And so the story lived on, whispered with the tides, told by fathers to sons, by mothers to daughters, as they mended nets or watched the horizon. Some took it as a warning against chasing empty promises, others as a challenge to imagine what faith might bring. But the fisherman himself, long after that day, never forgot the feel of the tiny trembling body in his hands, nor the sound of its small, desperate voice. And in quiet moments, when he cast his net into the endless sea, he sometimes wondered if perhaps he had lost more than he had gained.